Parents and teachers left shocked and blindsided by the city's decision to cut more than 100 universal pre-K programs, including 5 at Catholic schools across the Diocese of Brooklyn. I'm Jessica Easthope, and that's ahead. Preparing for Inauguration Day as worries of a peaceful transition has the entire nation on edge. Tens of thousands of National Guard troops on high alert in the nation's capital. Then, in one of his final acts, President Trump orders the creation of a national garden that honors, among others, several saints and others on the path to sainthood. And remembering Monsignor TOSI, the beloved Brooklyn priest who may get a street named in his honor. The news starts right now. Good evening, I'm Christine Persichetti. Parents and teachers are frustrated and angry after the city has decided to cancel more than 100 universal pre-K programs, including 5 at Catholic schools in the Diocese of Brooklyn. Currents News' Jessica Easthope has more from Sacred Heart Catholic Academy in Glendale.
Mommy, take a picture of our sky.
Take a picture. When you're as young as Aubrey, the sky's the limit.
Take a picture.
Her mom, DENA, hoped to enroll her in Sacred Heart Catholic Academy of Glendale's Universal Pre-K program next year, like she did with her son, Jeremy, because it's where he reached his full potential.
He came home every day with new information that he was learning about the different chapters that they were going through, and I'm really sad that my daughter's not going to be able to experience that next year.
Let me get your tag.
Sacred Heart's UPK program is one of 105 across the city that will no longer exist come next year. 4 are at other Catholic schools in the Diocese of Brooklyn. Now DENA doesn't know if she'll be able to pay to send Aubrey to Sacred Heart. She says it feels like the school is being punished.
I feel like we're being discriminated against because we're a Catholic organization, open 5 days a week, and the DOE can't pull that off. And I feel we're being punished for that, honestly.
Go ahead, sweetie.
And other parents feel the same way.
It does feel like religious schools are being singled out.
It just seems a little disappointing and frustrating that there's no clear reason why it's being defunded.
Right now, the school has 54 pre-K students, has been open during the pandemic, and is running UPK for nearly $8,000 less per student than it costs the city. So why would it get cut?
The reason that we were given for the rejection was that other programs in the area received higher quality scores. We've received great program assessments. We receive wonderful feedback from the parents on the parent survey every year. So I really am baffled.
Allison Condell, the director of Sacred Heart's UPK program, has appealed the city's decision. She says having no UPK would be a devastating blow to the community.
We offer early morning drop-off. We offer an after-school program as well. For us to not be in existence with UPK will really hurt the working families in the area.
We reached out to the Department of Education but have not heard back. If Sacred Heart's appeal isn't approved, administrators say they have no choice but to tell parents within the next 2 weeks that pre-K tuition for next year will cost around $5,000 a child.
Got him.
In Glendale, Jessica Easthope, Currents News.
There was no mention in Mayor Bill de Blasio's latest media briefing about the cancellation of pre-K programs. Instead, he emphasized the city's need for more vaccine doses, raising alarms that the city could run out in days.
It means if we don't get more vaccine quickly, a new supply of vaccine, we will have to cancel appointments and no longer give shots after Thursday for the remainder of the week at a lot of our sites.
According to the current schedule, the city won't get a resupply of vaccines until next Tuesday. Disturbing news as the death rate from COVID-19 surpassed 400,000. Looking to secure more vaccines for the state of New York, Governor Andrew Cuomo is going straight to the source, asking the pharmaceutical giant Pfizer if they would cut out the middleman and sell doses directly to the state. But Pfizer said no, citing the need for approval from the federal government because of the emergency use agreement granted by the FDA. The Diocese of Immigrants is remembering Father Carlo Graziano of St. Athanasius Church in Brooklyn, who recently passed away due to COVID-19. Father Graziano tested positive last week and was hospitalized at Maimonides Medical Center, where he passed away on Monday. He was ordained in Italy but served for many years as an extern priest in the diocese. Father Graziano would have celebrated the 60th anniversary of his ordination this year. Now to the nation's capital, where several members of the Army National Guard have been removed from inauguration duty because of ties to extremist groups. No word on which fringe group the Guard members belong to or what unit they served in. The massive effort is part of an enhanced vetting process put in place by the FBI to prevent attacks from within the ranks. The Pentagon saying there has been, quote, no intelligence indicating an insider threat. Meanwhile, we're just hours away from President-elect Joe Biden's inauguration. He got emotional as he left his home state of Delaware to head to D.C. to begin his new job, as President Trump spent his final day on the job working. Karen Kaifa is in Washington with the latest.
Outside the White House, a Marine stands guard, a sign Donald Trump is working in the Oval Office during the final hours of his presidency. President Trump is expected to issue more than 100 pardons and commutations. A source close to the process says dozens of the final acts of clemency were championed by criminal justice reform advocates.
Senate will come to order.
The Senate, meanwhile, holding confirmation hearings for Biden cabinet nominees, including two who will be key to the new administration's efforts to confront domestic extremism. Secretary of Homeland Security nominee Alejandro Mayorkas.
I will do everything I can to ensure that the tragic loss of life, the assault on law enforcement, the desecration of the building that stands as one of the three pillars of our democracy, the terror that you felt, your colleagues, staff, and everyone present will not happen again.
And Director of National Intelligence nominee AVRIL HAINES.
When it comes to intelligence, there is simply no place for politics ever.
After a transition delayed by the Trump administration, Biden's administration will have no confirmed cabinet members by Inauguration Day.
I am concerned about this delay, and it's why, the Senate's going to need to move very quickly.
The president-elect today making a trip he's made many times before.
It's kind of emotional for me.
This time to take over the presidency. In Washington, I'm Karen Kaifa.
President-elect Biden will start his day tomorrow at church. He plans to attend a service at St. Matthew's in Washington, D.C., along with Senate GOP leader Mitch McConnell, House Speaker Nancy Pelosi, and Senator Chuck Schumer. New York's Cardinal Timothy Dolan is encouraging all Catholics to pray along with the president-elect, despite where they stand on political issues.
I don't care where you stand on the political spectrum. I don't care if you voted for Donald Trump or if you voted for Joseph Biden. I don't care if you're a Democrat or Republican. I don't care if you're liberal or conservative. We owe it to our new president to pray with him and for him.
Cardinal Dolan continued, saying Catholics should pray he will do his work with honor, integrity, and justice. President Trump will be leaving the White House with a departure ceremony at Joint Base Andrews, where he is expected to fly on Air Force One on his way to his Mar-a-Lago estate in Palm Beach, Florida. The president will not be attending the swearing-in ceremony, but Vice President Mike Pence is expected to be there. Other big news out of D.C., Senator Mitch McConnell on the Senate floor stating for the first time publicly that the violence on Capitol Hill was provoked by President Trump, and that the commander-in-chief is partly responsible for the assault.
Last time the Senate convened, we had just reclaimed the Capitol from violent criminals who tried to stop Congress from doing our duty. The mob was fed lies. They were provoked by the president and other powerful people. And they tried to use fear and violence to stop a specific proceeding of the first branch of the federal government, which they did not like.
McConnell made the comments on his last full day as Senate Majority Leader. The upper chamber is now waiting to receive a single article of impeachment from the House in preparation for President Trump's trial in the Senate. This as the president signed a last-minute executive order on Monday night ending the international travel restrictions that were put in place in March of last year. The order would instead require proof of a negative COVID test before entering the country. But aides for the incoming president say not so fast and insist the travel restrictions will remain in place until the virus is under control. As one of his last acts as president, Mr. Trump has issued an executive order for a garden to be built in response to the toppling of monuments across the country. The National Garden of American Heroes will include tributes to 5 saints, among them Junipero Serra, Catherine Drexel, and Ann Seton. A statue of the Venerable Augustus Tolton, America's first black Catholic priest who's now on the road to sainthood, will also be included. A beloved Brooklyn priest is being remembered for all his contributions to the community with a proposal to co-name a street in his honor. Currents News' Emily Druby has more.
This is a great picture. Yeah, I love that picture.
The Murrays and the Caffarones pore over old photos.
Good memories, Doug, good memories.
40 years of memories, many spent with their priest and close friend, Monsignor John Tosi. He passed away in May.
We just loved him, and he loved us. As a friend, and as a priest, he was a priest. He was truly a shepherd.
For the Murrays, he inspired strong faith.
And I was so touched by that, the faith, the beautiful, beautiful faith that he had and always shared with us.
For the Caffarones, he inspired them to move to Howard Beach, close to his parish at the time, Our Lady of Grace. Inspiration, a common thread among Monsignor Tosi's friendships. Deacon Alexander Barvario says he's the reason he became a deacon.
Out of the blue, he came over to me and basically said, God has big plans for you. And that memory has always stuck in my mind.
Now, months after his passing, he's inspiring something else. The co-naming of a street. Councilman Paul VALLONE led the charge.
Because there hasn't been too many people who've had that type of impact. He was larger than life. He really was. You know, everyone knew Monsignor Tosi.
After being passed by both the local community board and the city council, the intersection of Clintonville Street and Locke Avenue in Whitestone will soon forever be known as Monsignor John C. Tosi Way. It's the space right in front of St. Luke's, Monsignor's last assignment. Councilman VALLONE hopes to have the unveiling in the spring.
These are just some of the great memories that I have, that we have together.
Monsignor's close friend, Father Thomas Doyle, calls it a fitting tribute. The beloved priest passed during the height of the pandemic when holding large gatherings, including funerals, was impossible.
And that's what I felt bad for. We were not able to give him the tribute that he really deserved. And I think when the people came forward from St. Luke's and said, okay, let's do this, I thought that was a great tribute for him.
A tribute inspired by the man who touched so many people in the Diocese of Brooklyn's lives. Emily Druby, Currents News.
There's a lot more news headed your way. Amid the chaos at the Capitol and all the security concerns, it's easy to forget one historic moment this inauguration. Kamala Harris will be the nation's first female vice president. And protecting the rights of the unborn. Details on how you can participate in a virtual March for Life. Coming up next.
Now you can help us put your faith in the news. The next time you capture a newsworthy event, send us your pictures or video. It's easy. Go to netny.tv/send us, and you may see your submission on Currents News.
Normally, journalists from all over the world would be converging on Washington, D.C. to cover all of the inaugural events surrounding the president-elect swearing in. But this year is different. Joining us now to talk about how the press is handling this year's event is former longtime New York City TV reporter Frank Sapola. And Frank, how will news coverage be different at this inauguration compared to previous ones?
Well, it certainly will be different, Christine. And of course, the main concern here is security. We've seen the violence, the most recent violence in Washington, D.C. And, it is prudent to do so. The majesty of the event will be there. It'll just be on a smaller scale. But let's face it, we're in the middle of a pandemic. We've seen the violence, the most recent violence at the Capitol. So, we're taking all proper precautions. It will be different. But look, we've had inaugurations during world wars. We've had inaugurations during the Civil War. It will happen. It will just be different, and it will be what it is.
All right, speaking of security, I know you've covered presidents in the past and have even been inside the White House for press conferences. Talk about the security you would have to go through then and how that compares to the security in D.C. right now.
Well, let me give you some historical perspective. During the times of Jefferson, Madison, and Monroe, you could walk up to the White House, knock on the door, and if the president wasn't otherwise engaged, he answered the door. Obviously, that's 200 years ago. Times have changed. But when I was a cub reporter covering events in Washington and at the White House, you could go to the gate in front of the White House, and the White House was literally within a stone's throw of that gate. You know, the perimeter was extended after 9/11, and then further still following the violence over the summer, and most recently at the Capitol, and prudently so, and that is a good idea. But you know, it does something. It actually does something. It changes the perspective for the people visiting the White House, but more importantly, for the person inside, they feel more isolated, certainly, because you can't get close to this seat of power.
Right, and with all the talk about threats of violence across the country, should reporters be keeping an eye on other state capitals tomorrow, not just D.C.?
Certainly. I think a lot of it, however, has been tamped down, Christine, because of the violence at the Capitol a couple of weeks ago. I think a lot of the arrests, and there have been dozens so far, have gotten the ringleaders in those cases. And I think that's a good thing. I think we will see protests, I think, on a much smaller scale. But as a journalist, you want to be there. Mm-hmm. You want to be in those state capitals to see what happens. I don't think there will be violence. I don't think there'll be terrible things going on. There will be protests, no doubt. But I think a lot of that will happen because, you know, this time around, the folks in the state capitol and in the capital of the United States are ready and waiting for what's happening. They will not be surprised this time. And as a journalist, yes, most certainly you need to cover that story. All
right, I know you're a bit of a presidential history buff. President Trump has said he will not attend Joe Biden's inauguration. Has this happened before? And talk about the significance of an outgoing president being in attendance at an inauguration.
Well, it's happened 3 times before. Okay. John Adams, son John Quincy Adams, and most recently, if you want to call it recently, in 1878, when Andrew Johnson did not attend the inauguration of his successor, Ulysses S. Grant. Hey, look, Donald Trump is an extraordinary person with regard to the way he conducts himself. He goes his own way. It's not necessary that he be there. It would be nice because we want to make sure there is a symbol of the transference of power.
All right, longtime TV news reporter Frank Cipolla, thanks for being with us today.
A pleasure. Thank you, Christine.
This inauguration will be a historic one as the first Black woman and first woman of South Asian descent becomes Vice President of the United States. It'll be a homecoming of sorts as Harris graduated from the historically Black Howard University just down the street from the White House. She credits her time at Howard and her membership in a historically Black sorority with preparing her for a life of public service. Nadia Romero takes us back to the campus where it all began.
The Black National Anthem bellows across the yard at Howard University. Founded in 1867 for freed slaves, Vice President-elect Kamala Harris, a proud graduate.
You could do anything and you didn't have to be confined by anyone else's idea of what it means to be Black.
The first Black Supreme Court Justice, Thurgood Marshall, went to Howard, attracting Harris and Howard University Director of Alumni Relations, Sharon Strange Lewis, to attend.
I always feel safe. I always feel like this is where I belong and where all my dreams are possible.
Howard is one of 107 historically Black colleges and universities, or HBCUs, founded across the nation.
They were established and started by white abolitionists.
Marvin Burton is the first vice president of the D.C. National Pan-HELLENIC Council, the umbrella organization for the Divine Nine, 9 historically Black sororities and fraternities created to empower African Americans.
And had everything to do with the seriousness of World War I, the seriousness of social injustice that was happening, inequality that was happening.
Harris joined Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated in 1986. It was the organization's commitment to sisterhood, leadership, and community that inspired the vice president-elect and countless others for decades. Just like the Phi Beta Sigma mentorship program.
In middle school, I was with Sigma Betas. Didn't have much money, couldn't travel places, and you got these young men, even some older men that are willing to allow you to travel with them, teaching you about the culture.
And an opportunity to meet a fellow Sigma, the late civil rights icon Congressman John Lewis. It's the activism Lewis was known for that Harris says she learned from her parents and her time at Howard as an Alpha Kappa Alpha.
We would go up to the mall and protest apartheid, and Howard has a long history and legacy of real student activism.
And that activism that began right here on Howard's campus helped mold her views and her path as a public servant, a path that will lead her to Inauguration Day.
We have children who are young and that they see the possibilities, and they are looking the same way my brother did when we were in elementary school and we saw Thurgood Marshall, and now we have students who see Harris.
From Howard University, I'm Nadia Romero.
The fear of violence during the swearing-in ceremony has pushed organizers to move this year's March for Life indoors and online. If you'd like to participate in the virtual fight for the unborn, just head over to marchforlife.org/2021 virtual events. There you can RSVP to the event and have a link to the live stream sent right to your mailbox. Again, that's marchforlife.org/2021 virtual events. Ahead of the day's event, the U.S. Bishops' Conference is calling on all Catholics to pray a novena for life. The Diocese of Brooklyn's opening Mass will take place at the Co-Cathedral of St. Joseph's in Prospect Heights this Thursday, the 21st, and it will be broadcasted live at 7:30 following Currents News. Auxiliary Bishop James Massa will be the main celebrant. Still to come on Currents News.
I don't qualify. What do I have to do, lose both legs?
A Vietnam veteran turns to the community for help after his plea for a motorized scooter goes unanswered. His moving story is coming up. Do you have a story idea or want to share a tip? Email us at newstips@desalesmedia.org or call our 24-hour number 718-517-3122. We'll be right back. Three years ago, Vietnam veteran John McCants lost his leg due to diabetes. Since then, he's been trying desperately to get a motorized scooter, but he says his pleas have gone unheard. Rebecca Castor shares his story from Pensacola, Florida.
This was a stick I use when I go in here.
For retired Army Sergeant John McCants, just walking to the kitchen can be the hardest part of his day.
Right thing. I try to be independent. I don't want to depend on nobody. I can't even walk to my mailbox. I can't even, I have sometimes sense about it to get it.
McCants says every morning he asks God to send him a motorized scooter. But when he tried to get one through the VA clinic, he says he was told he wasn't eligible.
I don't qualify. What do I have to do, lose both legs?
McCants says this struggle has pushed him so far that he's even called the Veteran Suicide Hotline. Now, he assures me he's not suicidal, but says he just doesn't know what else he can do to get help.
I get depressed, real depressed up in here, and I can't go nowhere, just sitting here. Just get out of here. You gotta, these walls close in on me. You know, it closed in on me, just sitting here every day.
But McCants hasn't given up hope that help is out there.
It would mean the whole world. It would change my life a whole lot, man. It would be. Well, that's why I'm not asking for much. I'm asking for a little help so I can get around and stuff like that. That's what I'm trying to do.
But until that day, McCants says he'll still start every day with his prayer that a motorized scooter will come.
That was Rebecca Castor reporting, and we have some good news to report. When the news got out, the Pensacola community reached out to Mr. McCants, and a motorized scooter has since been donated to the Vietnam vet. His prayers answered, and we couldn't be happier. And that is Currents News. I'm Christine Persichetti. Thank you for joining us because we are putting your faith in the news. Hope to see you again next time.